we have a tradition of just serving our country. And so there was a big part of me that was proud to be able to serve.
All of my relatives had served in the wars. My father and two oldest brothers served together in World War II. And I had an older brother that served in Vietnam that year. I think he was serving in Vietnam. And I thought it's part of the tradition of our family.
I had a brother in the Army. He's passed away now, but I was the oldest of 6. So, my father was in the Navy, so I sort of followed in his footsteps. So,
as far back as my family's going, and it's a shame we've lost the stories, but it wasn't after my uncle died. He hit Normandy and he fought in the Battle of the Bulge. I had another cousin who fought in Iwo Jima, went through the Pacific, and Korean veterans and stuff, and they're all gone now.
My father was very proud. My father was served in World War II. My mother, of course, she had tears and was very, very upset about me going.
It was kind of rough for my parents because I told them yes, I wanted to join the Navy, so I volunteered. And when I come home that Friday and told my mother I volunteered for the Navy, she already had 2 sons serving now. She kind of fell apart, but that's how it started.
It gave me the spirit and the honor that I know I can defend my country, can survive anything. And it made me really proud to be American, and physically, mentally, just physically exhausted. And when at the end of the day, they played the Star Spangled Banner, I don't think there was not one person there that didn't have tears in his eyes. I mean, we were ready to go.
And it's an amazing thing what they do in a few months, though. They make you feel like you're Superman. I mean, coming out of boot camp, you were just like, you're ready to go. I mean, it changed from that naive, boy that got on that train to this sailor that was ready to go to war.
Well, and you're trained to do that. You're 22 years old. You're not afraid of anything. You're a Marine. When you were sailing out in that ocean, the ship looked pretty big in port, but once you got out into the Pacific Ocean, didn't look big at all. But looking up at the flag, I love our flag, I love our country, and just watching it, fly in the breeze, and know we're going to war, know my history of my father, my uncles serving, and it just, a lot of pride just came up that, we were here, we were going to do our duty, and going to do the best we could. Oh, it was real difficult. I mean, we saw on TV, we saw the stories of the people dying in Vietnam and everything, and we knew of people in our own hometown who died, and so it was frightening. We were very young, and you want to live and don't want to think about dying, but at the same time, there's a patriotism we had in our family.
I think that was the hardest thing I had to do. When I came home to my mother that I had to go to Vietnam with my parents. I had a twin brother who was in the Air Force, and they were pretty upset about him going to Germany, and I had to come back and tell him I was going to Vietnam.
I remember leaving home, going down to the train, and they had packed my lunch and everything to take on the train, and I got to the train and realized I forgot my lunch, and didn't know what to do. The train was getting ready to leave, and I looked out, and here my dad was, running out, giving my lunch. And first time I saw him cry. My brother that was in Alaska in the Army had come home, and he drove me down to the ship to go to Vietnam. And we got to the pier, and we said our goodbyes, and I started down the pier towards the ship, and never forget it. My brother, Bob, got out of the car and ran down the pier and picked me up. He didn't want me to go.
During training, especially in infantry school, our DIs, which were all Vietnam vets, said once you get off the plane, there's going to be a stench that hits your nose that you'll never forget. And it was exactly right. And it was so hot and dirty water, the rotting vegetation, the humidity and stuff, and it played on your mind there. The things that struck me was it looked really quiet. I mean, the people, as you thought Orientals, they were running around and stuff.
Like I said, in the daytime, it looked like a place you'd really want to visit.
Before we got off the plane, they opened up the door and the heat just came in, the smells and sights and the sounds that came in. The first time I saw a Vietnamese person besides them on film or on television was the little man that came in with a little helmet and shorts and was contaminating the airplane. When I got off the plane down on the Tosnock Air Base, the stink and the heat after leaving here in April, I'll never forget that. And it was there for a whole year. It was a cross between jet fuel, human waste, and garbage, and just intense heat.
The jungle was a different smell than I had experienced in our woods here at home. And of course, with all the battle going on, many of the trees were destroyed. There were huge craters from the 500-pound bombs that were dropped in the area.
We were a support group, the 3rd Reconnaissance Battalion, and we were supposed to go out and look to see where the bad guys were, and get on the radio and call back.
It was a matter of just firing all night long, and you were just firing in support. Most of it was interdiction fire and harassment, but some calls come in for direct fire. So we did that all night long, and in the morning then we cleaned up all of our leftover munitions and the trash and everything, and burned everything. So the first probably 48 hours I had no sleep. Then the second night I was on the perimeter out in a foxhole, and I spent the night out there. At that time we were on 50% alert, so we each got to sleep 2 hours. Every 2 hours you were relieved, and you got to, so I got about 4 hours of sleep that night.
So after a while you got used to sleeping anywhere and get up at a moment's notice. Now that I'm older now, you can probably walk and jump on top of me and I wouldn't even feel it. But back then, if something just didn't sound right, you'd wake up right away, because you got that sixth sense, and it takes a while to lose it. And then some of the guys that were in the field, they call it the 100-yard stare.
Oh, that's beautiful.
We were on a search and destroy mission, and we were coming up on an enemy position, and apparently they had set out mines, and I stepped on one of the mines and lost my right leg, and I lost the muscle and calf and part of the bone out of my left leg.
The first major firefight, we had been, as mortars and snipers at different places, where probably about 2.5 months after I was there. And what I remember about it is it was at night. It was what we called a combat assault into hot LZ, which said the enemy had it. And they did, pop shots at us and stuff, and you could see them. But I was too frightened at the time to bring attention to me to shoot back at them, And plus the helicopters landing and the lights coming on and stuff. But as I remember, as we walked down the hill through the night, that they talked to us on the way down in very good English. They whistled at us, Yankee Doodle Dandy. And then all of a sudden, the front element, which would be carrying machine guns, would open up, and then everybody's... So we finally get down to where we're rescuing people, and called across dead bodies on the way in and stuff. and we was in a very small, what they call a perimeter, not much bigger than a ranch house. We had a whole infantry company in there, and without us knowing, there was a gully around us where they were down in and throwing grenades and shooting at us from there. And then when morning came, pretty much when the sun rose is when, everything just opened up. And it's very confusing, very loud. You're trying to see everything you're doing. You're not scared, at least that's the way I felt, but your adrenaline's pumping so hard, and you're trying to focus on where it's coming from and things like that. And the very first one, and you survive it, you learned something that hopefully will get you through the rest of the tour.
The guys that were in there and actually had to do actual hard fighting and shooting and stuff, because on the ship, planes take off, they bomb, you never see who they're bombing. The guys that were fighting in the field, they saw who they were shooting, killing, or their friends get killed, so that's what I'm saying. So, and the thing was, the news was so slanted that today, if they had the same technology today, they wouldn't be able to get away with a lot of the stuff they did back then, because the reporting was so censored.
The experienced soldiers, and when you were a newbie, which was like me just coming into the company, they kept you away, at least, kept that 10-foot pole out there keeping you away from them, because soldiers that weren't experienced were the ones that made the mistakes and could get them killed. So, initially, for the first several weeks, till you have some experience, they stay away from you.
One day we were out on patrol and we heard a bunch of noise in front of us, and you're scared maneuverless, and this noise kept going, and we opened the elephant grass and it was a bunch of rock apes. Thank God. They were as scared of us as we were of them. But had it been the Viet Cong, a bunch of us would probably be dead.
They worked, well, two of them were on board ship, plane crashed and they bought it. And the hardest part was that, at that time I was on the deck when it happened, and I had to take pictures of them and stuff like that and help them put them in the body bag. Then you had to ship them back home. So, and that was one of the heartbreak. This guy was, he was getting ready to rotate and go home, and he was on the deck, and the guy that was supposed to relieve him was 30 minutes late, and then the plane did a nosedive on the deck and took about 4 people out, and he was one of them.
In the daylight, you'd look over there, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful land. The greens, the hills, the mountains. It actually looked gorgeous. The water was beautiful, everything. First impression was, wow, is there really a war going on in there? But at nighttime, everything changed. The 4th of July back here, we watched fireworks is one thing, but over there, all of a sudden, all that land lit up. You could see tracers in the air, you see explosions, and then when our guns would fire and everything, you suddenly realized that there was really a war going on over there.
I consider myself not a killer. I'm a Marine and I know how to do it, and if I have to do it, I'll do it. But you don't look forward to it. But if it comes, you're ready. And the old thing, you better shoot first or they're going to get you.
He really didn't make the war go any quicker. I felt very proud and to what we were doing there. There wasn't just cause. When I was in Vietnam and all the naval men I was all with, we were proud to serve and try to make that country better. That's what we were there for. Sometimes we thought, well, what are we really here for?
The experiences that we had, I think, were terrific. And then sailing around to Hawaii, going past Diamond Head and seeing all of that. And, the whole experience of arriving in Pearl Harbor as a sailor and everything, and remembering the history.
It was very disheartening. I hated it, actually, you know, and I condemned anyone who protested, because they, you know, not only were they protesting the war, but they were protesting the soldier. And when they protested the soldier, you know, it wasn't our desire to be there. No soldier wants to go to war.
I think I do regret that a lot of people didn't support the troops, and I don't think the venting was against the troops per se. I think it was against the actual people running the war, but the fact was they saw the troops. And the difference from then and today is it's almost automatic.
I was just the shyest guy, just a short guy, wimpy guy. And I saw my report cards the other day. My mom saved them. I looked at them and, my goodness, I just barely made it. I really did. I wasn't doing all I could in school. And I look at life now, I got all kind of placards on the wall, all these things I've done and all this stuff. And it's like, if you look at my report card, you say, he'd never do that, you know? But that experience was, without a doubt, the best. I didn't know it then, but I know it now. You learned how to endure. When you're on a ship in the middle of the ocean, when things break down, and you don't have the parts to fix them, and yet you know you have to get things ready, you learn how to devise other ways. You know, you did things, you know, to make sure that your part of getting that ship ready for battle was ready.
The world's a dangerous place. America's the best country in the world. We're so fortunate to have what we have, and until you go somewhere, a third world country, or even like our troops in Iraq today, you don't realize how much this country has, the opportunities you have, what you can do. I mean, the freedoms, even with the talk about, hey, we're losing freedoms because of the fight on terrorism, there's no place else on earth like America, and we're lucky to be here, you know? And that's one of the things you learned at an early age there, that no matter what people say or how they perceived you or what was going on there, we're the good guys.
Well, I would look at it as an experience that, because of the experience, it made me sort of the person I am, and I think I'm a better person for the fact that I experienced it. Whether it was negative or positive, that's yet to be seen, but I think it's affected me more positive because, you know, I'm not having the problems that a lot of the Vietnam vets are having. I'm not in jail, I'm not dead, so. But I think the fact that I was in service to the country, and that was, and I tried to put that ahead of everything else, even though the war was run badly, and you really didn't have any calls to say, you know, what you felt about it. I mean, you can have your opinion, but you know, a lot of times it get you in more trouble than you would back in those times than it would today.
I was very proud of what I did, and I would never regret not going back to Vietnam. I actually would love to go back. But the duty that I did and the honor that I got made me who I am today. I mean, without that experience, I've never been as successful today as I would have been without that experience.
It was a different path than what I had wanted to take, but the path I did take was to serve America still, and volunteerism. I do an awful lot of volunteerism. Yes, I'd probably do it again. That's crazy, stupid, but yes, I would.
When I came home, it wasn't so bad. I know I had fellows on my ship from the big cities. When they went home on leave, they come back, and the stories they told were terrible. their families told them not to wear their uniform, you know, and they said, keep your hat on, you know, just try to look civilian, because they got treated terrible. When I come home to Altoona, it wasn't like that. At least it wasn't my experience here. You know, I got treated pretty good. But when I look back, again, it's those things that happen that you don't think about at the time. Later on, when I went to look back for my sea bag, my uniforms, my medals and all that, couldn't find any of them. I'd look in the attic, look in the basement. I said, I'm sure I have them. And what happened over time, you realize people weren't proud of you.
Oh, it was bad. It was, yeah. You know, it was just so right. You went there. You know, you were crazy, baby killer, all that stuff like that, and you know they didn't know. And the thing is, you can't let it get to you. And I mean, and the sad was, a lot of people did let it get to them.
I went to a VFW to join, and a couple of guys that were sitting there said, "Oh, Vietnam, you're losers." That hurt. I didn't understand how a veteran could say that to another veteran. I probably didn't hold on to my medals and all that stuff because you didn't have anyone you could show them off to. You couldn't be proud of it. People didn't want to talk to you about it. And but I don't regret any of it. Freedom has a flavor the protected will never know.
It was just a good thing for me. It was probably the best thing that could happen to me in my life at that time, because of, you know, just the way I was. It gave me a little direction and showed me, hey, you make it through this, it's got to be better, you know. You know, seeing people injured, known people that were killed. Probably one of the saddest things I ever saw was two guys that came in as replacements. We called them Mutt and Jeff. I mean, they may have been there a week. I mean, they looked like they were 15 years old. And the company was out sweeping some mountains, and we had made contact and stuff. And so you had to learn right away. So both of them went out with one of the older guys, and I mean, 10 minutes later, they were both dead. That's sad to me, to think back about that. And you remember, guys, just in high school and stuff, you remember how they looked back then. But in that first major firefight, one of the medics got killed. And I had just talked to him before, because I had a guy beside me that had one of the Aero Rifle Platoon members. We went in to rescue. He had been shot in the ankle and his bones were sticking. I knew he was in pain, and they gave him morphine and stuff like that. And I talked to the medic. And shortly after that, he got killed trying to save somebody else. And I had him confused with somebody, with another medic that got killed, and I just learned who he was last year. You know, that brings that all back. And I actually carried his body out. And as I remember standing there in the river in the water, I was helping lift it up, and all the fluids come flying out at me, and as the helicopter blades went around, it all swished it away from me. And I guess I kind of went into a stupor, and I don't even remember the helicopter leaving or anything or what was going on. The next thing I know, somebody drags me up. But why I'm saying that is, you experience something like that. And excuse me, and when you think in life, when things are really getting tough, and you think back to the guys who aren't going to have the opportunities or the happiness that you have, and you're grateful for every day. You truly are.
Bullets are bullets. And from the War of Independence to now, and those who serve, those who are willing to die for our country, for freedom, I don't know how you can dishonor any of them.